Welcome to the podcast, It's Not You, It's PCOS. Hi, I'm Laura.
And I'm Nick.
We are two expert accredited practicing dietitians and nutritionists specializing in nutrition for PCOS and fertility.
Together we have over 25 years of experience, and we want to reassure you that if you have ever tried to make diet and lifestyle changes and failed, it's not you, it's PCOS.
Stay tuned as we share our favorite evidence-based nutrition and lifestyle tips that we use with our own clients every day,
so that you can start to feel your best with PCOS.
Welcome back to the podcast, It's Not You, It's PCOS, the podcast where we break down the science behind PCOS so you can better understand your body and the options that you have to improve your situation. I'm Nick.
And I'm Laura.
And we are both fertility dietitians specializing in PCOS and women's health. And today we're talking about something really simple, but it's actually really important for women with PCOS, and that is magnesium.
Yes, magnesium is one of those minerals that we don't talk a lot about, and it doesn't get a lot of attention for PCOS, but it does play a role in insulin regulation, inflammation, mood, and even hormone balance. So all the things relevant to PCOS.
Yeah, for sure. And what we're going to cover today is why women with PCOS may be more likely to have low magnesium levels, what magnesium can actually do for us in the body, and which foods contain it, and whether you need supplements or not. So let's start with the basics. What does magnesium do, Laura?
So magnesium is involved in over 300 biochemical reactions in the body. Some of the most relevant ones for PCOS are glucose metabolism, insulin signaling, energy production, and nervous system regulation, but also reducing inflammation and helping with oxidative stress. So one of the interesting findings in the research is that women with PCOS do or are more likely to have those lower serum magnesium concentrations compared to women without PCOS. And we've seen in the research that when there's insulin resistance, this also impacts magnesium levels with women with PCOS. So super interesting to know. I'm sure lots of women with PCOS would not know this, that having insulin resistance does actually impact their magnesium levels and their need for magnesium.
So why would this happen? Do you think it's diet or something else?
It's actually a combination of multiple factors. So firstly, insulin resistance in of itself can increase magnesium losses in urine. So when women with PCOS already have insulin resistance, you may lose more magnesium through the kidneys. Secondly, we've got chronic inflammation and oxidative stress that can occur a lot of women. So that also increases the body's need for magnesium. And thirdly, the modern day diet is low in those rich sources of magnesium. We do see more people eating less foods that are whole foods and foods that legumes, nuts, and whole grains. Lots of people are not meeting the desired requirements of those typical foods that are rich in magnesium.
Yeah, I can definitely confirm that with a lot of my new patients. They're just not eating enough legumes, nuts and seeds, and in some cases, whole grains. So let's talk about the connection between magnesium and insulin resistance and go a little bit deeper into that one. What do you think, Laura?
Yeah, so we do know that insulin resistance is a main driver for PCOS. It does cause a lot of havoc. So it's important to understand then, what is magnesium actually doing here? So magnesium plays a role in how insulin receptors function on the cells. So think of insulin as the key that opens the door to let glucose into the cell. Magnesium helps that lock work properly. Magnesium levels are low and insulin signaling becomes less efficient, which contributes to that insulin resistance piece. So does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like if a lock to a cell, a body cell, was rusty and the insulin key that opens up that cell to let the glucose from the bloodstream into the cell to be used as energy can't do its job properly. So then the magnesium is kind of like WD-40.
Yeah, I guess.
Lubes up the lock so that the insulin key works better and the door opens and the system functions better metabolically.
Exactly. Perfect.
Sweet.
Love
Okay,
it.
I've got it.
You got it. So That's exactly what it's doing. And the research is showing that when they looked at magnesium supplementation, it did help improve glucose regulation and insulin sensitivity. So it's more sensitive and it means it's going to work better. And as a result, what we have here is that we're able to reduce some of that inflammation, help with that oxidative stress. So it can help with these metabolic responses. So we're improving that with magnesium supplementation or having adequate magnesium. So that's really interesting. However, it's not the be all and end all. Having magnesium, particularly a magnesium supplement, isn't going to correct insulin resistance by itself, and it certainly won't do all the heavy lifting that is required to improve PCOS symptoms. It's a tool.
Yeah, so it's like one part of the metabolic picture. It's like a little 1%er almost, combined with a whole bunch of other little 1%ers can make quite a significant difference.
Yeah, it supports the systems that are often disrupted in PCOS. So it's a tool.
Cool. All right. So let's move on to hormones and inflammation and symptoms, which I'm sure a lot of people will be keen to talk about or hear about. Symptoms that women often experience with PCOS, so things like testosterone or inflammation. How does magnesium help there?
So there's been some interesting studies looking at magnesium supplementation over an 8-week period and also at a 12-week period, including combining magnesium and vitamin E supplementation. And what they did see in both of those studies is some improvements in hirsutism, inflammatory markers like CRP, and also just overall antioxidant capacity. So the research does show and support that magnesium can help with hormonal balance and inflammation pathways in PCOS.
Yeah, so it can potentially help on a whole range of different fronts. So, speaking of another front, what about magnesium and mental health?
Yes. It's really interesting that magnesium does play a role in mental health. So it's something that lots of women with PCOS struggle with, like symptoms like anxiety, depression, and having high stress. So magnesium is involved in the nervous system and regulation of the nervous system and neurotransmitter activity. And that includes serotonin, which is the happy hormone. So we've seen some trials and that found, again, magnesium taken daily for 6 weeks improves symptoms of depression and generalized anxiety. So it can be helpful for those women who do also have those symptoms or struggle with their mood to look at utilizing magnesium. Either, your dietitian will decide whether it is right for you to have the supplement or increase your intake of those magnesium-rich foods.
And also magnesium and blood pressure. So a lot of people living with PCOS wouldn't actually consider blood pressure maybe as something that they need to worry about, but it's certainly implicated in cardiovascular health, and we know that people living with PCOS need to worry about things like their cholesterol and their blood pressure because of those cardiometabolic risk factors. So, Laura, do you want to take us through how magnesium can help to lower blood pressure?
Yes, so there also has been research showing that magnesium has been linked to a lower risk of hypertension, high blood pressure. And what that study showed is an inverse relationship between dietary magnesium intake and blood pressure, meaning the more magnesium people consume through diet, the lower the risk of developing high blood pressure. So that matters because women with PCOS are at a higher long-term risk of cardiometabolic conditions, including hypertension and metabolic syndrome. So very interesting that we've got that research there and that it is from dietary sources. So again, not to overlook that dietary component, it does play a role. And also having that approach also is giving you that long-term view of, these are the things that may come up later in life. I need a strategy to utilize on the daily and not just, something that I will do short-term. So really interesting and important to highlight that long-term view.
Absolutely. Such a good point. Living with PCOS is a journey, and it's not just about like a 8-week program or Something like that. But just to recap, magnesium can be beneficial for insulin resistance, mental health, inflammation and hormonal balance, and cardiometabolic conditions like blood pressure. So it's like this awesome nutrient that, combined with a whole bunch of other awesome nutrients, can certainly make life a lot easier for the person living with PCOS. But let's get into more of the practical side of things. So what foods actually do contain magnesium, Laura?
Great question. Love all the foods that magnesium is actually in. So it's quite a diverse range of foods. So we've got like your nuts and seeds, particularly pumpkin seeds, almonds and cashews. Got legumes. Talked about legumes before, that we don't really eat a lot or enough of legumes in the diet. So think about lentils, chickpeas, black beans, and also things like hummus. So, we were talking off air before about the use of like lentils and dips and things that we can use to increase the intake of legumes. And you said that you have a great recipe for a bean dip, Nick. So I'm going to still throw that out there so that you share it with everybody.
Great.
Yeah. So tell everyone about that, because I think that is also a good idea to not just think of legumes that you have to cook up, but also other ways like dips, which are easy to use.
Yeah, like when people hear that they need to eat more legumes, at least this is what I've experienced, they tend to go, well, how am I going to include those into my day on the regular? Like a lot of the time they're included intermittently. And so we want to try and establish more of a pattern where we're eating them on the regular. So dips are a great idea. And I've actually got this really, really tasty butterbean, feta, and garlic dip. It's absolutely mouth-watering. And it's predominantly butterbeans. So great way to get in some legumes on the regular. I'll include the recipe in the show notes.
Excellent. Love that, guys. And if you make it, let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Other foods that you can include that are rich in magnesium are whole grains. Think oats, brown rice, quinoa. Leafy greens, spinach and silver beet are great sources, but other sources that I love are dark chocolate, avocado, and tofu.
Cool. All right, so that's a wrap on the food aspect of magnesium. And do you think, like with all the rich sources of magnesium in all those various different food groups, do you think we need supplementation? Is there a place for it?
There may be a place for it, and that really comes back to the person that is in front of us. Not everyone with PCOS has all these symptoms. Not everyone with PCOS has insulin resistance. So it really is about looking and combining all the pieces and then deciding. So your dietitian or GP or someone specializing in PCOS that can provide that information to you is going to be your best person. Like I said, if you do have insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome, you experience high stress and struggling with sleep, you have a history of anxiety and low mood, this could be a tool. And perhaps you don't eat a lot of magnesium-rich foods. So then perhaps we do look at supplementation. And in that case, there are different forms of magnesium out there. So again, the type is going to be really important here because they do different things. So Nick, can you walk us through just a couple of the different types of magnesiums that are out there and what they might be more beneficial for?
Yeah, sure. Most supplements contain different forms, and some are more absorbable, some are less absorbable, some are less effective, more effective. Like you need to, instead of just looking on the shelf and just grabbing something that looks pretty, which I don't blame anyone for doing so, go and consult a health professional with a bit of knowledge around which supplements are more effective for said condition or job to do. So in terms of magnesium, you've got magnesium glycinate, so very good for sleep and for calming the nervous system down. Then you've got magnesium citrate, which is great for supporting bowel functions. And then you've got magnesium oxide, which is typically used in research, but not as well absorbed. So really good idea to consult your health professional, someone who knows about this stuff, before just taking something willy-nilly. It'll save you a few bucks, and it could actually also help with your symptoms. So, you put all this effort into taking a supplement every day, you might as well get the right one for you. So Laura, if we were to pack up this episode now and leave our listeners with a couple of points, what would be your key points there?
Okay, women with PCOS are more likely to have lower magnesium levels. Having adequate magnesium can support insulin sensitivity, glucose metabolism, may help to reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. It also can support hormonal balance and lower testosterone as well, can aid in that process. It can also play a role in mood regulation and cardiovascular health. Focusing on a magnesium-rich whole foods diet is a great place to start, and it comes in a range of foods. So, mix it up, and having a diet that's rich in those plant foods means that you're going to be getting more opportunities to include magnesium in your diet.
And if you're thinking about supplementation, remember, I've said it twice now, make sure you talk to someone who knows what they're talking about. Go and talk to your dietitian or your GP.
Excellent. So that's a wrap on magnesium. It's really beneficial. So, it's another tool in the toolbox, and we hope that, today's episode has made you look at those magnesium food sources with a new lens.
All right. So if you enjoyed the episode, share it with someone who might benefit, and please leave us a review. And we will see you next time after you've tried my amazing bean dip.
Have a great day, guys. See you next time.